Aloha and welcome to ICS 314 for spring 2019. Really excited about this class. I think it's going to be one of the best semesters ever, software engineering, and I hope you'll have a lot of fun with it. This is a really brief screencast just to go over some of the housekeeping for this semester. In terms of email, you can contact me at johnson@hawaii.edu and the TA Brandon Ogata at bsogata@hawaii.edu. But in general, you'll probably almost never need to send us an email. Instead, the communication for the course will almost purely be done through Slack, and you can see the URL for that. So you'll be joining Slack immediately if you haven't already, and you can send me direct messages in Slack to communicate. You can email me as well, but I don't like that because I like to keep all of the stuff for the class in one place. So you're going to get better responsiveness. It's going to work better for you if you use Slack to communicate. I check it, multiple times a day. So there's no, there's no advantage really to emailing me. The website is here. It's pretty easy to find. My office is in Post 307A. I've got nominal office hours Tuesday, Thursdays after my second class, but really, you stop by anytime my door is open and poke your head in. And if my door is open, that means you can interrupt me, and 95% of the time I'm happy to talk with you. But if something's going on, I'm really busy, then you can interrupt me and I'll say, listen, now's not a good time. But don't be inhibited about if my door's open, just popping your head in and say, listen, I got a question, can I talk to you? So what we're going to do in this class is learn to efficiently build high quality, reasonably large software systems. By reasonably large, I mean up to maybe 500,000 lines of code. Once you get into multi-million lines of code systems, then you need some software engineering techniques that we're not going to cover in this class. But you could do a lot with 500,000 lines of code, we're going to utilize an approach where you start with a small system and you kind of incrementally grow it. We're going to use this idea of open source software development, which is a good way for you, particularly while you're a student, to build software. Once you go into industry, there'll be closed source stuff going on, but open source is a much better way, more developer friendly way of building software. And then there's going to be a lot of tools. You're going to learn about a dozen different tools in this class, because it really turns out that to do software engineering, at least in the modern day, it's a lot about the toolkit that you have. The second thing you're going to do is develop a professional persona. By that I mean we're going to work on your presence on the internet, and I don't mean like updating your Facebook page, but rather primarily building a professional portfolio. The idea being that when someone on the internet wants to find out about your professional qualifications, they can easily find your professional portfolio, or you can direct them to that, and that gives them a high quality set of pages that delve into your professional experiences in detail, much more detail than is possible through your resume. And while I do think it's really important to have a LinkedIn profile, your professional portfolio allows you to kind of customize the content in ways that LinkedIn doesn't allow. So it's, even though you have a LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile should link to your professional portfolio, and that's where you can kind of dive down. So the final thing is that there's a lot of material covered in this class. So over the past 5-6 years, I've developed a pedagogy to help you actually acquire all the material that I cover in the class in a relatively efficient and effective way. And that's called athletic software engineering. So the prerequisites for this course are fairly minimal. I expect you to have done about a year of programming. You should have taken and passed ICS 211 or the computer engineering equivalent, which is 296 or something like that. I forget. Your second semester of programming in electrical engineering. If you come from ICS, you're going to have Java as a background. If you come from computer engineering, you're going to have C++ as your background. I don't care what you have, because in this class we're using a third programming language called JavaScript. So it doesn't really matter what what language you know when you come into this class. I assume everybody's going to be learning JavaScript for the first time. Development environment, any modern OS is fine. Unix and the Mac OS variant of Unix is by far the best. Windows 10 is okay. And finally, you need to have some time for this class, and we'll talk about that during the first week of class. But you really need some time. So think 10, 20 hours a week, and we'll talk more about that. One of the most important things for this class is to have a decent laptop, because most of your work and at least half of the points for this class are going to be acquired through in-class programming exercises. So you might have some killer PC at home for gaming. That's great for gaming. That's not good for professional software development, either in this class or any other class, or even in the workspace. Most modern software developers do their work on a laptop, and so you need one too. The two most important things are having enough RAM and having a solid-state drive. There's a reading about this, but you may have to invest $1,000 or so to upgrade your equipment for this class. Well worth it. You'll never regret it. So do that. Okay. Grading. Roughly about a half is going to be the in-class stuff. Roughly 20% the final exam or so. But I could alter those percentages just depending on how things go. I guarantee that if you get 90% of the points for this class, you're going to get an A. I guarantee that if you get 80% of the points for this class, you'll get a B. And if you get 70%, you'll get a C. But if I happen to give really hard assignments or something happens, then I reserve the right to adjust it downward. So maybe 88% will be an A. I don't know yet, but for sure, if every person in the class gets 90% of the points, then every person in the class gets an A. I don't grade on a curve. So athletic software engineering is an idea I've developed again over several years. Almost all of you, usually around 90% of you, end up preferring this approach to the traditional, lecture-based material. And the idea is that each week you're going to focus on a different kind of skill or combination of skills. I'm going to assess your ability to utilize that skill in a kind of a fluent style by giving you each Thursday a short little test. It's graded all or nothing, and you have a time limit. It might be as little as 10 minutes to solve it. You have to both solve it within the time limit and correctly in order to get points. And if you either run out of time or you don't solve it correctly, you get 0 points. And it sounds very draconian. It is. But the good news is that if you follow the pedagogy, you'll solve the problem. Okay, so it's and the problems are not rocket science. All of you have the intelligence necessary to solve all of these problems, and it's just a matter of keeping up with the class and putting the hours in. Okay. You'll also be writing some technical essays because software engineering, a professional in software engineering, has to write technical articles, and so we'll have some practice with that. And I think you'll find that many of you will find that to be one of the more entertaining parts of the class. As I spoke before, we're going to have a professional persona. That's going to consist of your essays, your portfolio, the code you authored, and your participation in social networking sites. So you're going to develop all of those skills over the course of the semester. And the goal is to have you come out feeling a little more ready to talk with people in the field. about what you're able to do and what your past experiences are, and feel a little more competent. Um, I want to just briefly cover this. It's possible to cheat in this class, but you really have to be trying, because I do encourage you to collaborate with others. And if you find some code that solves parts of your problem, that's totally fine to use. You do need to attribute it. You need to be honest about the fact that you're incorporating somebody else's code when you turn in your code. So cheating is basically using someone else's code or text, submitting it as if it were your own, submitting it under your own name. And if you do that, that's plagiarism, and that will, and I kind of have a zero tolerance policy toward it. Okay, if you do it, you're going to flunk the class. But there's no reason for you to do it, and so far I've not had to flunk anybody, because it's so easy to avoid. Simply, indicate that someone else, you're taking somebody else's stuff, and everything's fine. If you have any questions about what to do, then just say, hey, can I do X? And I'll let you know. Okay, so just kind of get into the spirit of things. I want you to learn from others. I want you to collaborate with others. I want you to look on the web and see what other people have done. All of that is really good. Okay, but just be honest with me when you have to turn something in about whether or not, to what extent what you're turning in was your own code or what somebody else did, and then you'll be fine. I finally wanted to say that I really firmly believe that the future of Hawaii depends in large part upon our ability to invent new technology that helps Hawaii's unique problems. Okay, Hawaii is a very unique place. It has its own challenges, and for us to solve those challenges, in many cases, it's going to require new technology, and no one else on the mainland will build it for us. Okay, it's up to us, and you folks, the keiki of Hawaii, you're the ones that understand what Hawaii needs better than anybody else, and you're going to have the technical skills to actually solve these problems. So please go out and do that. I love this place so much, and I really want it to thrive in the future, and it's in your hands. All right, mahalo. See you soon.